So welcome everybody to our Pathways webinar series. My name is Samareen and today I'm joined by the Sahaita Youth Board. I'll have everybody introduce themselves one by one and where they are in their education. So starting off with myself, I'm a product of Irvington High School in Fremont, and I went to De Anza College, followed by UC Riverside, where I got my bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in finance. And I also did a marketing internship and I minored in anthropology.
Hi everyone, I'm Sapreet and I graduated from Moreau Catholic High School in Hayward and I'm currently a student at Purdue University. I'm going into my junior year and I'm studying finance with a concentration in marketing.
Hi everyone, I'm Ravina. And I go to UC Merced right now. I'm a rising sophomore, and my degree is in medical sciences with a concentration in biology.
Hi everyone, I'm Jolmeen. I went to high school in the Central Valley in Ripon, at Ripon High School. And then I went to UCLA for my undergrad. I graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in science and environmental science. Then I'm currently in grad school at UCSF, where I got my nursing license last year and I'm studying to be a nurse practitioner.
Hi everyone, my name is Samreeth. I am going into my 4th year at UC Berkeley. I'm studying society and environment. I went to high school in the Central Valley too, but in Clovis East High School. I am currently interning for a congressman here in Washington, D.C. I actually met Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez today, fun fact.
Hi everyone, my name is Raina. I went to high school in Elk Grove, California, Pleasant Grove High School. I just graduated from UC Davis with a degree in neurobiology, and I plan to going into medicine.
Hi, my name is Jaskirat, and I'm currently attending both Chabot College and Las Positas College, and I'm studying political science and economics.
Hi everyone, I'm Virjot. I graduated high school last year. I went to James Logan High School in the Bay Area. Right now I'm going to a community college, Ohlone College, and I plan on transferring to a UC next fall. I'm not too sure what my major is going to be yet, but right now I'm considering a career in sports medicine.
Hi everyone, my name is Sumit Sarah, and I'm about to go into my senior year, 12th grade at Mission San Jose High School in Fremont, and not in college, but I'm hoping to major in pre-veterinary practices somewhere soon.
I'm sorry, I just saw the chat. Is my audio better now?
Yes, better.
Better.
So let me just do my introduction again really quick. So I went to Mountain House High School. It's near Tracy. I graduated last year. I'm gonna be I'm a rising sophomore at UC Merced, and my degree is gonna be in biological sciences with a concentration in human biology.
Cool, thank you everybody. If you have just joined or if you're new, I think we have 32 total participants. So feel free to go in the chat and say who you are, what school you went to, what area of study you're in, or even if you don't know. But overall, thank you everybody. Together, we would like to introduce Udaan, which is a Sahaita initiative intended to foster an environment of leadership with the youth guiding the youth. So our goal is to build a network of trust and perspective so that students like you can feel supported by your peers. So just some house rules, if you could all put yourselves on mute, that'll help keep the audio crisp. No pressure to keep your video on, but we'd love to see your faces. Let's have, well, I think we have the chat open. Okay. So feel free to comment with questions throughout the webinar and we'll answer them at the end. We are also recording this session so we can share it, so you can share it with your friends and family. And later this week, we will share a PDF of all of the content covered and along with a post-webinar survey. So be on the lookout for that. So today's webinar, we're going to focus on ways to make the most out of high school, not just freshman year, but each of the 4 years will be its own unique experience. So it's important to set some goals and don't forget to have fun. If you're not sure what your goals are yet, that's totally fine. Now's the time to create some. They'll likely change throughout high school and possibly even change in college, which is totally normal. High school is what you make of it, and no one is in charge of your experience except for you. So our new initiative, Udaan, and its webinar series, Pathways, were started to help get you through. You might be someone who already knows what you want to do and are looking for tips to stay on track. You might breeze through high school and do everything you planned to get to that goal, or you might realize down the line that you no longer have interest in what you thought you did. So don't feel discouraged, you're not alone. You might otherwise be someone who has no clue where to begin and might not even know when you graduate, but the key is just to stay actively involved so you can at least rule things out. So pay attention to things that you like and what you don't like. No experience is ever wasted. There's always something to be learned. So from the overachievers to the lost souls, we're here for you. Remember that these 4 years are not just about what classes you take and what grades you get, but also for learning about who you are as a person and what you're capable of. So you'll develop a lot of habits, characteristics, and social skills that will carry you through the real world, quote unquote, real world. Before we jump in, are there any questions? Okay, I think we're good. How many middle schoolers or freshmen do we have in the audience? I know there were a few juniors who had RSVP'd, but if you are a middle schooler or a freshman, this early part of the webinar is good for you. So let's begin. Jilmeen, thank you for walking us through the roadmap.
All right, hi everyone. It's Jilmeen here. So I'm just going to go through kind of year by year, freshman to senior year, and talk about some of the main focuses that students can have during those years. So first of all, there are several things that you can do throughout high school, regardless of what grade you're in. One of those things would be like volunteering. So does your school have required volunteer hours? The minimum requirement is usually set pretty low, like 10 hours a year. So you can challenge yourself to do more. Every volunteer opportunity in or outside school will teach you something. So whether it's in leadership, skill development, social networking, or simply understanding what happens in a particular field. So test the waters with different opportunities each quarter, each year, and ultimately apply for some sort of summer internship. If you already participate in things outside of school, think maybe can they create specific tasks for you that count as volunteer experience. School clubs are also a great way to put yourself out there, not only to meet other people, but gain experience. There can be academic clubs or interest-based clubs. So are there virtual opportunities to get involved in? Like right now in the time of COVID, I think that's a great thing to look out for. If not, you can write out a plan and propose it to the student leadership. Keep these things in mind as we go through each grade, starting with freshman year. So freshman year. Well, before I go on to that, are there any questions before I start? Okay, so your school might have specific guidelines mapped out for each year with some openness for electives. While you go through the mandatory classes, think about what subjects come easier to you. So think about honors and AP classes that you might want to take in the future. To what extent is the difficulty of a class due to the teacher or your relationship with them? If you're interested in, sciences, maybe AP Bio is the way to go. If history is your niche, then there's a lot of AP history classes. And take into consideration the professors or the teachers and what kind of mentorship you can get through that as well. talk to a counselor early on to plan out your 4 years and meet with them as needed to further refine your plans. You can discuss turning your hobbies into extracurriculars and explore volunteer opportunities. It's okay for your interest to be piqued by a TV show, a movie, or a book. Explore it early. And one thing I personally really want to emphasize is shadowing and observing someone in the field to see what a day in the life looks like and what it takes to get there. Even if you shadow someone and you feel like that career path or subject area is not for you, you can kind of cancel that out of your plan, and that's okay too. It doesn't mean that it has to pan out in a way that it motivates a whole future career. Kind of eliminating things along the way is a great show of progress as well. So tap into your family circle to see what's out there. Some goals, you should set some goals. So adjust as you go through each semester. One type of framework that we like to use and want to share with you is SMART goals. So a SMART goal stands for, is a like a acronym for ways to set goals that are attainable and kind of make it easier to achieve. So SMART goals are specific, simple, sensible, significant. So set something not like I want to change the world, but something specific, a specific task. Make it measurable. So I can achieve this. I know I have achieved this goal if X, Y, and Z happens. Okay. Make it achievable. Make it something that you can do where you are in your life right now. Make it relevant and reasonable and realistic. So something that's important to you, and make it time bound. So this goal I want to achieve by the end of my freshman year. So this is kind of an acronym that I've learned throughout school as well that really helps kind of check the boxes when it comes to your goals. So that's freshman year. Any questions so far? Anything in the chat? Okay. So then I'll go on to sophomore year.
Can I give my 2 cents on freshman year?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So freshman year, in my opinion, is probably the best year. But let me define best really quick. So by best, I mean it's the best time to explore what you want to do for the next 4 years, and then which will lead on to the rest of your life. But no pressure, because in freshman year, you have the easiest classes. It's the easiest workload, even if you take honors classes during freshman year. And I believe that during freshman year, if you take that free time that you have due to having easier classes, that will help you understand what you want to do, like extracurricular wise or volunteer wise, like Jolene just talked about. So I joined leadership, which is the associated student body. They call it ASB in some middle schools. So I thought I would just define that really quick. So leadership, you help like organize dances, teacher appreciation, just everything that adds the fun in high school. So me being on leadership for 4 years helped me build leadership, helped me build, in a way, character, which is why I feel like which led me to be on the youth board here now today. And I also, like how Jolene said, tap into your family circle. Sahaita was in my family circle. So dad was associated with Sahaita, and now, which led me now to be on the youth board. And I've been associated with Sahaita for about 6 to 7 years now. So, but if we come back to high school, freshman year will help you understand how much harder it's gonna get and how you can kind of find those outs to de-stress. And freshman year will help you know what your high school has and what you can create in it. Because I created a Bhangra club during freshman year as well, because my high school is very new. still is very new. We started in 2015, so we didn't have any cultural clubs. So I was lucky enough to be one of the first cultural clubs there, and then a lot of people there started joining that club. And by the end of my 4 years, we had a well-running Bhangra club. So those are just my 2 cents.
Fighting this as a nation, but rather as a group of states all doing their own thing on their own timelines.
All right, thank you, Ravnoor. I'll go ahead and move on to sophomore year or 10th grade. So sophomore year is the time to become more strategic with your course load. There's more leniency in freshman year, and then things become more and more structured. So now's the time to start checking out the honors and AP path for certain areas you're interested in. Hopefully by freshman year, you got more broad exposure, and now it's time to focus in. Those classes are great if you want to challenge, and passing the AP exam can ensure college credit for those courses, but they are tough commitments that need real time and dedication. So that's something to consider when trying to take those courses on. Beyond just subjects you enjoy or don't enjoy, think about how you imagine your future. Can you see yourself in front of a classroom as a teacher, in scrubs as a healthcare provider? Do you know what options there are? It's outside of the typical doctor, engineer, lawyer fields. Don't be afraid to explore those areas as well. Could you imagine something more niche like journalism or content creation? Maybe an elective inspired you to give back somehow. Social work, working for the homeless population could also be a good fit. Given social distancing, you could set up phone and video interviews with people in different fields to get a more broad background of their field and personal experience. Now is definitely a great time to do that, because chiming into these type of daily work schedules via Zoom is way more accessible for people. It's important to pay attention to your own performance, not only to see how you can improve, but to see what's not working for you. So definitely check in with yourself after every course you take, or every quarter, or just periodically, to see, okay, after what I just experienced, what's working for me, what's not working? How do you prioritize things? Does your method of note-taking bring about the grades you want? You could write, type, illustrate your notes, figure out what works best for you. I will say it's definitely important to figure out your best learning strategies earlier on in high school, because it really does help as you move forward in your educational career. How are you with group work? Do you like to study and work alone? Does working with each other, teaching other people help you learn? How do you keep track of your goals and tasks? Remember to keep going back to those SMART goals. If class gets boring, just know that the methods will stick with you once you get out of high school. Whether you skip out on college to pursue art or work in another field, you should still have to prioritize your steps and understand and develop your work ethic. That is going to be crucial no matter what field you go into. And don't forget to stay in touch with your counselor so you can update your SMART goals as your perspectives change. And it's also really helpful to identify any possible obstacles that might interfere with your goals. This way you can explore resources that will help you to overcome them. And I know I keep mentioning SMART goals. I just want to like a quick refresher, because I really do think they're great: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Yeah, that's the main thing on sophomore year. So if you have any questions, otherwise I'm gonna let Supreet chime in on sophomore year.
Oh, is my camera on?
A quick question.
Okay. Yes.
So apart from the counselors, is there any other resource available for the students to go and talk to as well?
I think it really depends from school district to district. Normally, in high school, counselors are like the first people that you can go to. But I know, there's other places outside of the school district that you can reach out to that are like more private practices that offer guidance.
Okay, it will be helpful for students to know what other options are available as well, if you guys can share that.
I don't know of any options right now, but I can definitely look into that for you. Is there a specific school district that you want
No, I
to
think
learn
it's
about?
just in general. I'm trying to figure out like if there's a single source or there's a multiple sources available for people to go. So if there's a counselor is not working out for somebody, what alternatives do they have?
I will say that I personally didn't have the best experience with my high school counselor, and I think it's important to feel comfortable asking other people within the family or within the community that have gone through high school already or are farther along to ask for help, just because it does get confusing and sometimes the counselor can't really give the best input. Or if you're assigned a counselor, don't be afraid to say, look, I'd rather talk to the other counselor over there because this one's not helping me that much. It's kind of more of like a self-advocacy tip.
I'd also like to add what was helpful for me, at least when I started with the standardized testing, and it kind of branched out from there. There's websites like College Board that are really helpful. And if you don't find your counselors helpful, you can also talk to teachers, because like they are specific in their field. Even though they're teachers, they tend to know a lot of other ways that you can use your degree.
If there's not any other questions, I can kind of give my 2 cents on sophomore year. I think I personally really enjoyed sophomore year. I think it's one of those times where you're not the new group of students at your school. You're a little bit more comfortable with the people around you, with the teachers, with the environment, but you also don't have all the pressures that kind of junior year has. So it really is the perfect time to learn about different fields. I know at my high school particularly, our freshman year was very structured, where these were the courses and the counselors kind of gave them to you, whereas with sophomore year there was a little bit more personalization. So there was room for like an elective course where I was able to try out a business economics class because I was interested in going into business. And so it really gives you the opportunity to try something that you're interested in then. So I definitely look into electives at your courses, at your schools, talk to your counselors to see what other things you can explore. If there's a certain class that you can take related to what you want to do, sophomore year is definitely the perfect time to do that.
Thank you, Sapreet. Is there a question? Okay. And yeah, we are making note of these questions if we can't fully get back to you on that. So look out for responses on that. So junior year. This is when it's really important to start doing some research. Compile a list of all the things that interest you and research certain people in the field who you admire, whether that's someone local you know or someone well-known for their work. What does it take to get there? Is it a 4-year college degree, a certification, grad school? It's always good to have these as backup. How much potential is there financially? What schools and programs are best for these areas? Even social media apps like Instagram and TikTok have a lot of influencers in various fields that kind of talk through their experience and how they got there. So everyone's on those apps anyway, might as well explore. And ever since COVID-19 hit, most, if not all, universities have changed their requirements of the SAT and ACT testing, which hopefully works in favor of a lot of people, so that's awesome. The intended purpose of standardized testing, whether this proved to be true or not, was to test potential success once admitted to the college, regardless of socioeconomic background. Um, so, and those are controversial to say the least, because it's a standardized test, and you know, don't be disheartened if you don't do as well, because it doesn't equate to your value as a student. So, but that's a tangent. Without the SAT and ACT requirements, it is still important to establish study habits so you can manage how you best study, no matter what the topic. This can translate into success with jobs or side projects. Now that there is less emphasis on these exams during this time of COVID, how will you stand out from the rest of applicants? So it's very important right now. And that kind of goes back to freshman and sophomore year, where you build your hobbies and your extracurriculars. This would be a good year to develop something that is uniquely you. Start a local project that gives back. Help an organization virtually. Document your experiences in a blog. Sign up for webinars, for online courses. Dive deep into a hobby, etc. Just make sure you're on track for graduation and setting a route for college, if that's your goal, or just setting a route for whatever your future goal is. Yeah, so I'll reach out to Jaskirat and Sumit.
So for my experience in my junior year, it was a very tough year for me. I took multiple honors classes, and the biggest thing I took away from it is that in your junior year, you become more well-rounded as a student, being to take much more advanced classes, and it's important to build relationships with your teachers, because when you need help, or in the future, like in senior year, when you need letters of recommendation, they could come in handy. So the biggest thing I learned from junior year was be friendly with your teachers and begin to build relationships with them. Also, look outside of your school. Your school may have a lot of clubs, but also look in your community and try to find different opportunities they have there. And all of that can combine for your application that you're going to beginning of your senior year.
Yeah, and along with thinking about those clubs and extracurriculars, another point of emphasis is you want to get into a step bit. I know that was emphasized in what Jilmeen said earlier, but really it's something that's really important. I was literally just a junior, and I personally don't think I was prepared yet for how tough my studying schedule would be. And so that's something to be prepared for. Prepare to do a lot of reading if you're taking a lot of AP courses. If you're not, still make sure you have an established kind of a study schedule, and try to figure that out in sophomore. For whoever is going into sophomore year or is going to become a freshman, make sure you have that established, because it will come in handy for junior year. And in junior year too, as stated earlier, it's also really important to figure out what you like to do, and that you can look out for different opportunities at schools as far as majors go. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll go on to senior year. So senior year is kind of when everything feels like it went so fast and you're just like, how did I get here? Oh my God. Yeah, looking at the last 3 years, you'll also feel like you've grown and developed a lot more than you ever thought you would. You may realize that your interests when you came into high school are completely different now that you're leaving high school, and that's okay, because you have a better understanding of who you are. By senior year, the goal is you've made friends and hopefully networked outside of your regular circle too. It's important to keep connections with people you meet, because it only helps you build your goals for the future even more concisely. So at this point, it's time to start thinking about, does your school require you to complete a senior project? If not, would you be willing to start one yourself? It would be a great embellishment when applying to colleges or simply network building for like jobs later on. So soon you will be making some real decisions. Is college right for you? Do you feel more comfortable starting at a community college so that you could still learn about your personal and professional interests at a fraction of the cost? Or are you ready to jump into the university system? So check out programs in your state or in other states and consider where you imagine yourself, both location-wise, and what programs are offered at different schools, the general vibe and environment of the school, the weather, the cost, and all the different avenues of obtaining financial aid, which we will touch on a little bit later on. So talk to people who go to these schools and learn about their likes and dislikes. Public colleges may be easier to apply to since they share common applications. Private schools may be unique in their application processes. Also think about out-of-state fees that certain states might have. So is it cheaper or more expensive or beneficial to go elsewhere outside of wherever you are, or stay in state? Keep on track of application deadlines so you don't fall behind and stress. Highly recommend getting a planner. Manage your mental health. It's really important to keep check on yourself and stay grounded in how you feel. Because it could be a very stressful year. A lot of change is going to happen all at once. Many universities require personal statement essays, transcripts, letters of recommendations for some schools. So truly reflect on yourself in the past 4 years and how you've become the young adult you are today. And start early on those and get stuff proofread by various people, and submit only when you feel it best represents you. In terms of getting applications proofread, too many people proofreading is not a good thing either. So keep it concise. 2 or 3 people that you really trust to who know you best and who can help you improve your application. It's important to build relationships with teachers, advisors, supervisors who can vouch for you and trust that you will be successful wherever you choose to go. So that is high school.
I just gotta add a couple of things on senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people think that senior year is one of the easiest years. It's gonna be like breeze. It's the last year of high school year. You did all the hard work, but it really isn't. And you got to stay focused because you have a lot of stuff to do. Like first, there's financial aid or FAFSA, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, more about it. But it's very tedious trying to fill out everything, all the financial stuff, the income stuff and whatnot. And there's also you got to apply to scholarships with FAFSA. Just so you know that okay, you'll have a little bit of financial help once you make it to college. And for scholarship, they're really everywhere. But I mean, your school also offers a lot. Whatever school you go to, they offer some. But mostly you could just search on Google and just be like, oh, scholarships for Bay Area students or wherever you live and whatnot. And once they come to application period, when you apply to university, there's every single university system has a different application for University of California. You have to write 4 free response essays, and those are you have 8 questions and you pick 4 of them, and it's kind of hard to do it, and it's because you got to fit in 350 words. So that's probably one of the hardest parts of the UC application. For CSU, you don't have to write any essays, and then for privates are different. You just got to research them separately. That's the worst part about privates, and they cost more. And then the last thing is, if you don't have a major coming out of high school, don't be worried at all, because the first 2 years of community college, they're basically general education. So you still have that time to explore your interests and whatnot. And then once you feel comfortable choosing a major, then you could choose it. And the last thing is, a lot of people look forward to the end of the year activities like senior picnic, grand night, and whatnot. I know it's class of 2020 didn't have it, probably not the class of 2021 either. So sorry about that if you're one of those 2 classes. But yeah, a lot of people get distracted by that, and then they end up getting bad grades and then delaying their application processes. But you just kind of make sure you stay focused and just prioritize things like the applications and whatnot. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for your job. So I'm gonna go over general education for UCs and CSUs. Can we get the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna read what study.com defines it as, and then I'll break it down into student language. So as described by study.com, general education courses are typically designed to teach diverse skills that every person should master in order to lead a productive life, become a knowledgeable citizen, and communicate ideas as a useful member of society, regardless of her or his chosen course of study. Most colleges and universities require every student to take a certain number of classes that satisfy general education requirements. So that's what study.com defines general education as. And if you are in high school or you are going in as a freshman, you've probably already got the whole how many years of English, math, social studies, science, all that you have to take. But I'm going to go over it one more time. So general education, new college university students are required to satisfy, like study.com just said. So English classes, you have to take all 4 years, whether you take AP or just regular or honors. Math, required is 3 years, recommended is 4 by UCs. And then social studies too, also recommended is 3 to 4. And the PDF, the full breakdown, will be provided in the PDF of our roadmap that you can find on our social medias, I believe. But basically, there's a required number of years for each subject. There's a required and then there's a recommended. And it's completely up to you whether you want to do the recommended or you don't. It does make you a stronger candidate for universities. But that's based on your university and where you want to go. Because I feel like every high school student going in has a dream university. And then if you work towards that, I would say do all 4 years for English and every recommended thing. Because the recommended definitely helps. So you don't lose your focus. Like you don't forget math by the time you're in college. So that was general education.
So I'll talk about financial aid. So I'll begin thinking about financial aid while you're in high school, whether you start thinking about it, let's say your sophomore year. So applications usually open for financial aid in the fall of senior year. So usually in October. And start thinking about Cal Grants, scholarships, and student loans early. And attend seminars regarding financial aid because they'll give you the most specific information for getting the aid. And remember that when you're in college, that FAFSA must be completed every year so you can receive the financial aid. And the earlier you apply, the higher potential you have for your financial aid. So if you want a realistic calculator of college costs, go to FAFSA for castor.ed.gov for a rough estimate of how much you would get in aid. And don't underestimate yourself when it comes to scholarships. They are need-based, not grade-based. So they may be awarded based on athletic ability, artistic accomplishments, academic achievement, heritage, place of worship, etc. And like a grant, these scholarships never need to be paid back. Your counselor may have leads for particular ones or know which sites are trustworthy when searching for them. So like in my high school, the counselor's office, they had a huge list of scholarships that you could apply for. And it was usually updated once a week. So check your counselor's office. They'll give you a lot of good information. And if you're set on a college, research scholarships they offer. And it's usually done by area of study. And also don't ignore the smaller scholarships because a few $100s can go a long way in your studies. You can get your books. And if you do a lot of small scholarships, they'll add up over time. And when you feel like you have a strong hold on your course load and your extracurriculars, consider getting a part-time job. And many colleges offer federal work study programs that allow you to work on campus, and you will earn some spending cash, and you also get better at prioritizing time management, budgeting, and saving practices, and all this while building your social skills.
Okay. Thank you, Gurjap. And I want to acknowledge, I know that this was a ton of information. And the goal was to really just give a roadmap, like we mentioned, and an overview of high school, and then also emphasize that we're also available as resources. And before we go to the Q&A portion, we'd like to remind you that you can approach high school one step at a time. Stay curious, keep your creative juices flowing, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Seek inspiration everywhere you can, and step into leadership roles where you can as well, and where in areas you feel passionate about. High school is very unique because, especially during the global pandemic, if you didn't need any more time to sit with yourself and kind of understand yourself more. And so take it day by day. Things could change often, so stay in tune with what's happening in your school, what's happening in the world, what's happening in your community, and how you can have a role in it. Forge healthy relationships with your teachers and counselors, because they'll be rooting for you. And if you find someone whose journey truly speaks to you, ask if they can serve you as your mentor, and don't hesitate to reach out to any of us as well. We are also available as a resource, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, and before I move on to the Q&A portion, does anyone have any questions so far?
One of the questions in the chat is, what are the biggest things that colleges look for in a student?
It's a good question. I think a well-rounded individual, a well-rounded student is something that I've heard a lot that colleges look for. So I really feel like if you show that you are passionate about something and that you work towards it, and set goals for yourself and try your best to achieve them, and really show throughout your educational and personal and volunteer career to work towards it, it shows that you are driven, you work for what you want, you go after what you want, and that could speak more than grades. So I think, grades can only show so much, right? And so having those unique experiences outside of just coursework is really important, I think.
Right, and I just wanted to add on that what you're passionate about, it's also important to start thinking about how that affects your community and the people around you. It shouldn't just be something like, oh, I play video games because I really love them, Okay, but how does that affect the others around you? That's what colleges look for. They think about like, okay, well, what are you doing? Are you doing something that's bigger than just you? So that's also something to think about once college applications also roll around.
We have another one in the chat. What should you look forward to in high school and college? So
I think the main thing is like getting out of your comfort zone, because I mean, in high school, you probably, if you're going to the high school that's in the same district that you were in for middle school, you're probably likely to know a lot of the people going in. So it can be harder to try something new when you're surrounded by a lot of the same people that you have been before. And I think the same thing kind of goes for college. Oftentimes you probably won't have a lot of people from your school going to the same college that you're going to. So it really challenges you to, sort of make your own friends, find your own path, find things to fill your time with. And a lot of that comes with stepping out of your comfort zone and being willing to, seek out new opportunities for yourself.
I also think that in high school, like I said, during freshman year, look for stuff, like Supreet said as well, like that you haven't tried. Look for stuff that you didn't even know existed. Like I didn't know Key Club was a thing until like they started one sophomore year. And it was honestly like a joke until everyone started like joining it. And then it was the biggest club on our campus. So try new things, ask around, don't be afraid to ask the upperclassmen either, because you're going to be upperclassmen one day and you're going to know a lot more than the freshmen and sophomores. So don't be afraid to ask them, make friends with the upperclassmen. They're only there to help you, unless they're mean, then don't be friends with them. But just look forward to try new stuff, start something. Like I know it's scary and it's like no one's gonna join, because that's what I thought. I was like, no one's gonna join our Punjabi, like we called it South Asian Unity. I was like, no one's gonna join that, but we got people to come, and slowly but surely things grow, especially if it's something that isn't normal to the general public. So I think try new things, make friends, not with just people in your classes, but in other classes as well. And that's one thing where electives come in handy, because in your normal classes, you'll have people in your grade, but in electives, you could have a senior in your class, you could have a junior. If you're a junior, you could have a freshman. So I think electives are the places where you can kind of broaden your group, your friend group. Does anyone else have anything to add to that question? Okay, so we have one more in the chat. How should a student prepare for SAT, ACT besides having a study schedule? I think Jolene went over that, and that requirement is in a lot of colleges. So, I mean, does anyone want to talk about that before we get into it more?
I'll talk about it. So for the SAT and ACT, there's multiple books that are available, and they all have their different way of studying. There's Kaplan books, and there's like the official SAT books from College Board. So I would try to use many different resources, and I would, if absolutely necessary, I would actually get a private tutor, so that person can go teach you personally how to approach the SAT or the ACT. Personally, I use Khan Academy the most, as it was free, and they were partnered with College Board, who made the SAT, and that helped me out a lot because I got the actual questions that will be on the test and how to study for them. Plus, you have previous tests. So with a study schedule, that's absolutely important because you need to know when to study, and it helps to keep you organized for the test. Also, try to take both SAT and ACT pre-tests, because I personally like the ACT much more than the SAT, and depending on how you are as a student, one could be better for you than the other.
To add to that, SAT is a lot of vocab, like you have to know a lot of words. So beyond your study schedule, I would suggest like reading. Just keep reading, like even just your textbook, like not for fun, but like just keep reading, because you'll come across words that you didn't know, and most like out of the textbook, there's a lot of words that are on the SAT. So one tip is that don't stop reading in high school. Like I think some middle schools have a requirement where you have to like read books and like AR tests. I don't know how relevant that is, but like my middle school had that. And that got us to read multiple books a year. But then high school didn't have that, so everyone kind of just stopped reading books. So some people don't find that fun.
I think
but reading.
another thing to add is this is like probably the first like standardized test that you probably like be sitting through. So I think it's really important to practice that. So take as many, practice tests that you can, and give yourself the same environment that you would be put in when you actually have to go and take the exam, because sometimes that like quietness can like really change the way how you kind of perform. So you want to know the things that work for you in that environment and the things that you need to improve on going forward.
Does anyone want to add to that before we move on?
Yeah, I just want to say practice tests are like of the utmost importance. You won't be able to gauge how much better you're getting after, let's say, each week if you don't take a practice test. So practice tests are really important to kind of get to where you're at as far as how well you're doing on your SAT right now, and it'll also eventually help you get to your goals as far as your score. Can help you hit that 1600 if you're going for a 1600 or 1400, whatever you're trying to go for.
I also want to jump in and just say that doing practice tests really helps, because it just boosts your confidence. When I did I think I took the SAT twice. I think on my second time, there was something in the room that was like beeping the entire time. So they basically said, when you're done, if you look at your score, then that is your score. If you choose not to look at your score, then you can basically redo it, just because that noise was going the entire time. So you have to be able to like know yourself and know if like what your distractions are or whatever it may be. Just build your study habits and keep practicing.
And make sure when you're taking your practice tests, if whether it's at home or at some kind of learning center, that like preferably there are no noises, because then you'll be able to stay most concentrated. So if you have like little kids at home, try to separate yourselves from them, close your door, go in your room, just get started, and make sure you have a good atmosphere basically for studying and practice tests.
All right, I think that's all for this question. So someone asked, what tips do you have for high school students to take care of their mental health? I'll go first. Mental health is a big one. I think that's based on the environment at home. And one tip that I have is that counselors, like even if you think they didn't help you for your class schedule and stuff like that, they're just a safe place to go and talk to them about anything that's even going on at home. This is what my counselor told me when like you have your first meeting with your counselors. They were like, everything that we talk about is confidential. Like we weren't talking about anything related to mental health, but like everything she said, she was like, everything we say in this room, we'll just say between the two of us. So if that's a concern or holding you back from talking to someone, I believe counselors should be or can be an avenue to talk about your mental health or anything that's disturbing you.
And then if I can add on to that question, I think a lot of people are stressed out in high school and whatnot because they don't get enough sleep. I feel like sleep is probably like, you have to set up a really good schedule for yourself so you have time for everything. A lot of people just, end up procrastinating and delaying their work until like 2, 3 a.m. And then they got to wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning, go to school. And then you just feel irritated, you're out of it. You can't, think straight. And then if you get bad grades, that's just even worse. You feel like you're not good enough and whatnot. So just having like, a good sleep schedule, a set time to sleep and a set time to wake up. Even on weekends, I mean, I didn't do it, but it would be helpful. But on weekends, you could wake up the same time, and it would just, a schedule is probably the most important thing at the end of the day because you have time for everything and you don't got to stress about anything because you know that you already have it planned out. So, yeah.
I'd also like to add, for me personally, I danced all throughout like middle school, college, and high school. That was a really good avenue for me to kind of release stress mentally and physically. So if you have something that is physically, working your body and working your mind, I think that's more helpful. Yeah, that'll be pretty helpful.
So someone asked, is there a mock test someone can take to check for SAT preparedness? And then an audience member answered that and said there's a lot of practice tests on the College Board website, also on Khan Academy. So I agree with that. There are also people, depending on where you are, I know there's tutors for SAT. You can also reach out to them. I think it's kind of just word of mouth. Like if you know someone, then I would recommend that because taking on the computer without anyone around is like, you're not as credible or as honest or like your integrity, that type of thing. But if you have a tutor for that, they sit in the same room and they watch you take, well, they don't watch you, but like they're there when you're taking the test. And it kind of helps with your, Samreen and Sumit said, it's like taking it the day of. And I know there was a tutor that also made you come at 8 a.m., which is the time when you take the SAT. So like the timing was all like the day of, like it would be the day of the situation with the desks and everything. So I think a tutor would help. But yes, College Board and Khan Academy do have those.
Another thing that, yeah, so I know, like before you even take the SAT, there's also a pre-SAT, and I know some schools like administer it. I know my school did, so I had it in my freshman and sophomore year, so that already kind of set the tone for what that environment would be like. So I definitely would check into your school to see, do they offer that pre-SAT? It's similar to what the actual exam will be, but it's a lot shorter. And you should just check in your school district, see if your school offers that, and if they don't, then definitely go seek out like a private tutor to see where else you can take, this exam. But colleges don't see it, so it's completely fine. You don't have to stress about it too much either.
Okay, so I think those are all the questions that were in the, oh no, we have one more. When do you recommend a student to take the PSAT? High schools usually say sophomore year. Sophomore year is like you can start taking it, but I know freshmen take it as well. But I would say sophomore year because it's in October.
I would also say sophomore year just because I think sophomore year would probably be for most of you right before you take your SAT, or the year before you take your SAT, I should say, because right after that, right after sophomore year, me personally, I started studying pretty much right when summer started. And so, and again, like I said about the practice test, it's just another way to gauge where you're at before you even start your preparation. So just kind of see where you're at, think about how much work you need to do, what you need to study. And I'm not sure if all schools offer this, but my school offered separate scores for the reading, writing, and math section. So they showed you what you got for each. That's another good thing to look at when you take the pre-SAT. Because like which one of those sections you need to work on most, and yeah, that'll help you out a lot in your preparation later on.
Any other panelists on here? Urbana added it in the chat. I can read it out. Another tip for mental health is to make a well-balanced life a priority. It is easy to get caught up in the stress of high school and getting into college. Take the time to do something you enjoy, whether that be family dinners, seeing your friends outside of school, sports and clubs, reading, going on hikes, etc. Okay, I think those are all the questions in the chat. There's also, and then we answered that in the chat.
Okay, hi everyone. If there are no other questions, we can move on to ask the panel some frequently asked questions about their high school experience, course loads, etc. So to start off, the first question is, how do you figure out which extracurriculars to pursue in high school?
So I chose to continue extracurriculars that I did in middle school, as they were like middle school versions of the same high school ones. And I really figured out like which ones I didn't like, and what it was all based on trial and error for me. So I also focused on what mattered to me personally, like what issues. I was very big on sick issues on our school because like my school was predominantly like white and not much diversity, and so I created a club on that, Sick Honors and Service Society. So just figuring that out and then having a role in those clubs.
So for my high school, I went to a big high school, so we had a thing called Club Rush Week. So that's where there were multiple clubs that were lined up, and they were all trying to gain members. So I was able to sign up for multiple clubs and see what stood out to me. And I found many clubs that I liked. Interact Club, where it was we helped out Tracy High School. And I also joined Sports Analytics Club, where we just got together to talk about sports. And we had a math teacher, and he helped us connect sports to math. So that was pretty interesting. And also, I joined the tennis team, and that was the best way for me to get my mind off of school because everybody there, we made a pact not to talk about any schoolwork. So we just focused on tennis. And one of the main things that I focused on was not to follow my friends, but do stuff that I would be interested in, because you may fall in the trap of just joining clubs that your friends are joining, even though you're not interested in them. So I made sure to do things that I would be interested.
I would say do stuff that interests you. Like just give yourself do stuff that you're interested in, because I agree it's easy to follow the herd and just join the club that everyone's joining. I went to a very new and small high school. Like I said previously, we started in 2015. So I was the second, like all 4-year class. So I had to start a few clubs there. And like I said, I started up on that one because I'm very into dancing and the Punjabi culture. So I started up on that one. And then we had a South Asian community where it was just everyone from South Asia. So all the Desis and Indians, whatever you would like to call them, came together and helped each other with homework, school, like any problems, or just came to chill during lunch, because that's when we had our meetings. So don't be afraid to start something new if your school doesn't offer it, are my 2 cents for extracurriculars.
I think going off what everyone said, I think it's really important to, try new things. So like sometimes you don't know what you're interested in if you don't give yourself the opportunity to even try it out. So I know for me, I actually fell with the crowd, and a lot of my friends were doing a lot of sports at our school. So they had convinced me to join the track team, and I absolutely hated it because I'm not an athletic person at all. So it was kind of tragic. And I was there for 2 weeks and I realized like, this is not for me. Sports isn't for me. So I'm going to do what interests me. So I found I did a lot of theater productions at my school, and also a lot of clubs. We had a South Asian club as well. So do what interests you, and give yourself the opportunity to try, because if you don't try it, you won't know.
Okay, thank you everyone for your input. Our next question. Sorry, can we go to the next slide? Our next question is, are honors and AP classes even worth it? So if Simrit, you want to start us off again.
So for me, they did challenge me a lot, and I think when I came to college, like I expected that workload, and because it was a lot of workload, and however, and like they give you a higher GPA, which obviously like colleges like, and sometimes the tests are hard to pass, or they're made like harder to pass, like AP Calc, Physics, or something. When you can just take those community college courses as a high school student, as a dual enrollment student, and that allows you to gain college credits without taking some hard standardized test or based on that year. So yeah, I think it's 50-50. I took a lot of AP classes, so I can't say like I'm very anti AP, but I would definitely recommend community college class.
So for my when I went to high school, I took six IB courses because in my school we had IB. And what I learned from that is that honors and AP courses are worth it, but they should be worth it in moderation. So take courses that either interest you or can be applied into what area you want to pursue. So don't take an honors course just because it's an honors course. So say that you want to go into, say, like an English-based area. Don't take AP chemistry because it's an AP class. Take classes that will help you in the future. And like what we just said, look into concurrent enrollment in your local community college. That's also a great way to get college credits, and the classes will be much easier than an IB course or an AP course.
I agree with Jaskita. Only take those classes if you're confident that you'll be able to work at the faster pace that those classes are intended for, and in like certain subjects. You don't have to take all AP classes that are offered. You could just take AP English if you like those classes, or AP Calc, or whatever interests you and whatever you think you're going to be able to handle. The high school I went to had a dual enrollment program with the community college in the San Joaquin Delta Community College, and where we were able to take community college courses and earn credit for both high school and college classes. So I was able to walk out with a AA and an AS by the time I had my high school diploma. So the one plus point about that is that you don't have to take AP tests if you take those college courses. You automatically get like 5 or 4 units of however much the class is worth. You get that credit by just getting a C in that class, or whatever the passing grade is in that class. So the question that we had in the chat, is it recommended to take community college courses in high school? Again, if you have a dual enrollment program and they're getting you a degree at the end, it's up to you. Like it's up to the student, actually. So if they think they can handle it, I would recommend it. But if they don't want to do the whole pathway that we had and be a part of the cohort and get the degree at the end, and they just want to take, instead of taking AP English at high school and having to take the AP test, they want to take it at the community college and transfer their credits over, that's fine too. So I would say I would recommend it personally, because I found it easier than doing AP, because the professors in the community college courses, the classes, teach you exactly what you need to be taught in order to, understand the class itself. Whereas the high school teachers, I feel like, just go over what's required, like the syllabus, and then you prepare for the AP test. Whereas the community college course, just like they teach you like they would in a normal high school class.
I would say, of course, it's important to challenge yourself and to take honors and AP courses where you can, but it's also important to only take them if it seems it's going to be valuable to you. Is it something that you're interested in and you want to learn more about? If that is you, then go ahead and do it. In my personal experience, I found myself taking like AP Bio, honors chemistry for absolutely no reason, just for the fact because my friends were doing it. But I had already knew that I didn't want to go into any medical related routes, so it ended up not really being worth my time. So your time is valuable, and spend it where you seem it's valuable, and you can learn more about yourself that way and other paths for you. Do we want to move on to the next question, or is Sumit also here to talk?
We can just go on to the next question.
Can I answer something really quick that was in the chat? I'm gonna answer it really quick. So you asked, when can you start that? Sophomore year. So if you're talking about the community college classes, I would suggest, like, if you're just replacing it for an AP class and you're not like there's no program or you're not trying to get a degree at the end, like the AA or the AS, Associates in Arts or Associates in Science, I would suggest taking it when you're supposed to take an AP class in high school. So I think the first AP class you can take is junior year, because I think up to that it's honors. So I would say junior year, but if you're prepared for it and you know what you want to take in sophomore year is perfectly okay as well. Again, it's up to the student and when he or she feels ready to take a faster, harder class.
So can we move on to the next question? Are we doing question 3?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. If we could go back to question 2 real quick. Sorry, I forgot I had an answer for this. So honors and AP courses are absolutely worth it if it means that you won't have to take that course in college or in high school. In that case, it's convenient that you've already gotten that class out of the way once you get to college. Otherwise, take the honors AP courses that you're interested in. Where like Jaskita said, it's important to think about what you'll be learning in that class and whether or not you're built for or ready for the extra work and curriculum. Otherwise, the course is just going to hurt your GPA, and then that will definitely decrease your chances of getting into your college.
Okay, thank you. So our third question is a little more specific. So the third question, if we could change the slide. Okay, thank you. Our third question is, what is the IB program?
So I attended the IB school, Tracy High School, and the IB program is known as the International Baccalaureate Program. So it's a series of honors courses that have a shared curriculum around the world. So the basic factors and teachings are shared. So if you go to IB school here, it's going to be the same curriculum as an IB school in New York or an IB school in Toronto. So there's 2 different things you could do with the IB program. One is a certificate program and one is a diploma program. So a certificate is doing the IB class and taking the test and passing the test, or you could do the diploma program, which is much more complex. So the diploma program is known as one of the toughest programs in for any high school. So it consists of HL classes and SL classes. So HL classes are 2-year classes, while SL is 1. So when I did the IB diploma, I had to do biology, which was 2 years, English, Spanish. Those were all 2-year classes. And for SL, I did math, chemistry, and philosophy. And along with doing all of these classes, I had to do 6 honors classes per year. So I had 12 total, you could say, honors classes. And on top of the classes, there's something called the CAS project, where you have to do a certain number of hours doing action, which is exercise or sports, creativity, which is trying to expand your creativity, and service. So you have to do these hours on top of your classes so you can be a more well-rounded student. And then we had to do a 0 period class called TOK, which was theory of knowledge, where you learned of how knowledge has spread. And we have to do an extended essay, which was a 4,000 word essay about any topic of your choosing. So all that combined for the diploma program, I personally would only recommend it to someone who knows that they're organized and can handle such a workload, as we had many people drop out of the program. And I would say around half the people that started it actually finished it. Or you could do a certificate, which I would recommend, which is taking a class that you're interested in. And overall, I'm not sure if there's many IB schools in the Bay Area, but there are many in, I would say, Southern California. There's many in different states like Washington. And check with your school if they have an IB program and if you would be interested in doing the diploma program.
Okay, so really quick, before we move on to the fourth question, we have a question. If I audit classes, for example, auditing courses from Yale, would that be worth it? So I think the question is auditing classes worth it?
So it's kind of based on your intention. So why, you have to ask yourself, why are you auditing this course? It could, auditing, you're just kind of like observing, you're allowed to like observe lectures and stuff. I'm not sure if you take tests or not. I don't think you do, but you kind of go into classes and you, classes that you're interested in. So yes, they are worth it if you're interested in the class and you like just have a genuine curiosity about whatever course you're auditing. But if you're kind of like looking into what a lecture style class is like, going into classes, you get to really like see students come in and come out. You'll be one of those students. It's kind of, you get to like a firsthand experience at a college experience, at the college experience, to see, like, to sit in during lectures. You could also, I guess you would also, a benefit could be going into like making connections with the professor, like going into office hours and stuff and asking questions about the class, maybe getting to know the professor. Possibly, if you make a good impression, getting a letter of recommendation from the professor if they agree, if you build a relationship with them throughout auditing the class. So those are all things to think about, but it's definitely not, I'd say, like necessary to, you know, getting into college or anything. So does that answer your question?
I'm gonna add on really quick. I agree. Auditing classes for knowledge is great. I don't know if, are you a high school student or is this a college student? But I would say don't audit the class because you use the Yale as an example, so I'm gonna use it as an example. Don't audit the class just because it's a class given at Yale. Audit it if you actually like are interested in the topic about whatever the class is, and you know, maybe for, again, connection with the professor. But I would say for the knowledge, it is definitely worth it. So let's come back to the high school topic, and we will have future webinars about colleges and careers. So if you guys are interested, please leave us any topics that you would like us to have a webinar on in the chat. I'm just going to plug it in real quick. Okay, Rana, you can go.
So our next question is, where can students get help with their courses?
So personally, I think teachers are always open, and it may not seem like it. However, like some teachers might have office hours. Some teachers always are available during lunch, after school, before school to help. And that's also like something that I regret, that I never asked for help, because there's no cost for asking. It's just that cost of being shy that's coming in.
So I also believe the best way to get help is to see if your teacher has office hours. So these office hours are usually going to be on your syllabus, and you could come in at any time during that period to see if your teacher's there. So I believe it's very important to use those hours, as your teacher will be able to answer the questions about the class better than anyone else. And another thing is that many teachers have different teaching styles. So this way you can learn your teacher's teaching style. And it also helps you to build a relationship with your teacher that can be used when applying for universities that require a letter of recommendation. And I would also use online resources like Khan Academy, as they're super expansive and they can give you practice problems, or they can give you different ways to solve a problem. I personally use Khan Academy a lot when I had to do chemistry or calculus, as they gave me a very easy way to solve these problems. And they also had a lot of practice problems that were exactly what I needed.
Every school has different opportunities and times as to when teachers are available to help. It's usually during lunch, or if you have a break before lunch, like we had a brunch and like a 10-minute period where you could go in and ask questions. And some teachers want you to email them before you come to ask questions during lunch. So just email them, ask them how they want you to ask them for help, because some teachers are like, no, you have to email me before you come in. I don't know why, but like, just make sure you know when each teacher is available and how they want you to communicate.
I would take advantage of like a free period if your school offers that. I know my school did. It's the perfect opportunity to reach out to your teachers and ask for help. Another thing that was mentioned earlier was you can always talk to your teacher and ask them if you could meet before or after school or during lunch, you know, and work through a problem then and there. But like also just don't be afraid to ask any questions, whether it's in class or even like after your class. Teachers actually really like it when you know, take that initiative to come and ask for help. So, you know, don't shy away from that opportunity.
Yeah, and everything that's just been said thus far is absolutely right. It's important to try to discuss the difficulties you're having in your courses with your teachers, because it helps you do well while also building a better relationship with your teachers. However, I know what it can be like when a teacher's teaching style or pace doesn't match your learning pace. In such cases, I think it's a really good idea to look for a tutor if you can. That kind of one-on-one help is sometimes a lot more helpful in a classroom than a classroom setting. I know nowadays with COVID, it's kind of hard to find tutors, but if possible, there are a lot of online tutors that you can find online who can help you out with your courses.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So our next question is, are there things you wish you knew or did differently during your high school, while you were in high school?
Yeah, so
Do you
everything.
want to change the slide?
So kind of everything that we mentioned before, I wish I knew more about community college classes, dual enrollment. I wish I knew about like how much effort to put in like clubs. I think I joined a lot of clubs and put a lot of surface level engagement in there, when I should have just chosen a few certain clubs and have a more engaging role in there. And then I also wish I asked for more help, because some of the content I learned that I was supposed to learn in high school, and like I should have had that basic knowledge going into, like, I was pre-med for like a semester, and like if I knew chemistry in high school, I maybe would have still been pre-med now, but I'm not. So but again, like I wish I asked my chemistry teacher in high school, like instead of just like guessing my way throughout high school and then ending up in college, and then with thousands of other freshmen not knowing the basics.
I agree. Ask questions as much as you can, because it doesn't hurt you. If anything, it'll help you build a relationship with the teacher. But I wouldn't push yourself. I would recommend that you work at your own pace. Again, don't follow the herd. Don't be a sheep in the herd. I would also recommend know what colleges you're kind of aiming for, or your dream college. That way you can work towards your recommendations and the requirements. Because it's a simple Google search. Like let's say you want to go to like UC Merced, and you say what are the requirements or the recommendations for applying to UC Merced, and it will give you like a whole list. And I think if you do that freshman year or even sophomore year, it'll help you kind of navigate through those 4 years, and you'll know like they recommend 4 years of math. So I'm gonna do 4 years of math just so it increases my chance of getting into that college. So that's one thing I would say I would do earlier on, because I did that a little later.
And so my advice is for all incoming freshmen: do not sleep on finals. When I first entered high school, I thought it would be just like middle school and I would not have to study too hard. I and many of my peers are wrong though. When finals came around, I procrastinated a lot and started studying too late. So try to make the most of the time you have when it comes to finals and all your other exams. For example, my high school, I'm not sure about your guys' high schools, but we had a dead week right before our finals week. And basically what that was is it was a whole week where we did not have any exams and we didn't have too many hard assignments, just so that we had more time to study when we got home after school. And so when for my first semester finals, I unfortunately didn't take advantage of that, started studying the weekend before, and it hurt me a lot. So when you have opportunities like that, absolutely take them and watch out for them.
Okay, thank you. And now moving on to question 6. So this question is a little more personal, but what were your biggest fears during high school and how did you deal with them?
So my biggest fear going into high school was getting a B. Majority of elementary school, middle school, and like even freshman year, straight A's was the only thing I knew of, and my parents even like made me feel really scared about getting a B, thinking that it was the worst thing in the entire world. However, let me tell you that I got multiple B's and I still got into great schools, and I'm here like existing still. Those B's didn't do me any harm. And we put incredible amount of pressure on ourselves, especially as like first generation brown kids trying to like go through the school system in America. And however, at the end of the day, there's multiple roads to the end destination. So don't freak out if you get B's. Again, like I'm living proof that everything's fine. And I think I needed that in high school to see living proof that like B's are fine.
Right. So my biggest fear was probably taking AP honors classes, AP and honors classes, because traditionally we're all used to like, just normal classes. We took normal classes, elementary school, middle school, high school. Most of them are just normal classes, but AP classes are they're more difficult, but they're still, that doesn't mean that, it's impossible to do good in. I remember my first honors class, it was in 9th grade, I think. It was like an honors math class. And then I was so overwhelmed the first day I considered dropping, but I convinced myself to like stay in it. And then I remember the first test though, I actually failed the first test, and I was like, all right, I definitely made the wrong decision, like taking a hard class. But eventually I you just gotta dedicate yourself to the work. You can't let that one score just like, ruin your whole mood. So I just kept working, kept studying. The next couple tests, I got better scores, and I actually got a pretty good grade at the end. And the same thing happened like junior year. I took like AP calculus class. I failed the first test again, and then I was really about to drop that class, honestly, but I stuck through it. I just did, just studied. And there's a lot of resources available. You could ask your friends if you need help. There's teachers, there's tutors. There's also, you could just search on Google, there's Khan Academy and whatnot, YouTube videos. All those resources just help, and if you just got to take the initiative to, like apply yourself, get that help, right? If you're not gonna get help, then you're just gonna be stuck there. And then another thing is, yeah, so a lot of people don't take honors and AP classes because they feel like they don't need them. Like, oh, why should I take an AP English class? Like, I'm not gonna be an English major. But at the end of the day, AP or honors classes, one of the most important things they do is they challenge you. And whether you're going to college or university or just gonna work after high school, you're gonna do things that are harder than high school. So that's one of the best part about AP and honors classes is honestly, they just challenge you, because not everything is gonna be like, easy and perfect. So that's what AP classes do. And they're basically like the exact similar thing to the courses you would take in college. So if you are going to college, they're pretty much AP courses are the exact same thing. If not, again, everybody's gonna do things that are harder in high school. So that's the best benefit. So yeah.
Okay, thank you to the panel for their responses. We're opening up the floor to any further questions now, if anyone's interested. I'll wait a second for anyone to type something in the chat or speak up, like turn your camera on. Feel free. In the meantime, we'll be sending out a post-webinar survey so you can help us improve for next time. Our future webinars will touch on life after high school, traditional versus unconventional paths of education, mentorship, and more. If you have any ideas, please contact us at info@sahaita.org. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Many of us have only met virtually, so this was quite a project to undertake, but we did it. And your participation today propels us to continue these efforts with Udaan. So thank you so much.